Hello and welcome back. So as you can see, I'm getting ready to do a water change. I'm only going to do 50% because it really doesn't need a water change. The water's freaking immaculate. The problem here, or the thing that I'm coping with, or helping my new fish cope with, is a massive swing in pH. So they came from a place about 35 minutes away, so it's not terribly far. Like, the mineral content in the water is probably not a lot different, but I strip most of my minerals out with block filters on my tap. So he was running his Discus in well water. Now, of course, that would have run through various filters probably built into his house, but well water, and it was coming out the tap high eights, like off the chart. Mine comes out of the tap that way too, though. But then after I run my block filters downstairs, I get it down into the sevens, and I put it into my barrels for a few days. And when it gets in my tank and settles out, I'm running 6.5-ish. 6.4 to 6.7 range is what my tank runs, which is beautifully perfect for Discus. And I don't have to like chase pH; it's just always there, and so it's perfect. And there's no need to have that range. You don't have to chase that range. Unless you're trying to breed, because the eggs need that range to not turn white and die before they hatch. And so I've conquered all those little problems along the way. I went from 8 point off the charts to where they would be in the wild, and I'm doing that all without chemicals, all without extra costs. And I'm not chasing it by using pH buffers, because that's a nightmare. You'll kill your fish if you do that, so never ever do that. You got to find a stable way to bring your pH down, and that's kind of how I do it with the barrels and the block filters. The combination of the two steps me down, gets me where I need to be, and it's just worked out. And I use RV style block filters. I don't use like the aquarium stuff. I use the stuff that's sold for campers, RVs. They screw right into garden hoses. They're dirt cheap. They're human grade, and they get the job done. You don't have to use RO. I'm not using RO. RO completely demineralizes the water, which means you got another expense. You got to buy mineral additives and throw them in to keep your fish healthy. So RO is also a big expense, because you waste 98% of the water that you're taking out of your tap, and you keep 2% of it as the RO water. So if you're paying a water bill, that's going to freaking murder you. So RV block filters, check them out. They just screw right. They're real cheap. They screw right onto your hose. They'll step you down. They'll step you down more than a point, and then you use their barrels and step you down further. So we're going to do another water change. We're going to do 50%, and we're going to do that because these fish these new fish, these new adults that grew up in like 8.5 to 8.9 range are doing okay in the 6.7 range, 6.7, 6.8 range. But if it gets down into 6.4, no. That's when the gill flaring starts. And what's happening is the lower the number, the more acidic the water gets. So they're getting gill burned. Now they're going to adapt, and they're going to stop. That's going to stop happening to them. But it takes them about a week, maybe even two weeks, to for their bodies to chemically readapt and learn to resist that swing. So that's why like instant pH swings will kill your fish. And this is how they'll kill your fish. The symptoms we've just watched on these two fish in the last 2 days. So he's over it. He's strong, resilient. He's fine. And that's the Asian variety fishes for you. They're a little more resilient. And whereas these blues are a German sort of, they're brown discus, and most brown discus are German. These might be Asians because there's a lot of blue diamonds sold out of Asia, but they've got the brown discus genes, and those are weaker fish. Brown discus are weaker fish in general. So that's my male. It's not even her. She's over here. But you can see her. This is her left functional gill, but she's using it normally now. It's not flared to hell out like it was yesterday. Her behavior and her movement is really good today. Some of the best I've seen since she arrived. So she's slowly coming around. She's adapting. But that's the problem. The pH swing was stressing the fish out, and that's why she's been sluggish almost since she's got here. Her first couple days were fairly vibrant, and but no, she hasn't been 100%. He's 100%, and that little white guy is just like a champ. He's just loving his life. He's even gained weight. I've seen. He showed up a little scrawny, and he's already filling in. So he's loving the food. He's hard to focus on. He's loving the food. Look at him. His form's coming out. He's gonna grow like a champ. Keep an eye on him. I got him just in time because he was starting to struggle, and now he's not. And the only thing that he came in with pink gill, like in the bag. I held the bag up, and his gills were pink, like brown blood disease pink. Clean water, strong UV, sorted him right out. He's a champ. No meds required. I got loaded them like twice with some metronidazole on the first day that the white one arrived, because I was worried about him particularly, and he ate it and he improved, and I stopped that. But that was just gut loaded foods, not a fully treated tank. And yeah. So, but other than that, no meds, and I'm not even sure that did anything for them. But she's behaving fine. So I'm going to get on with this water change. Okay, so today I'm only going to bring this down halfway, maybe even 40%. And then I'm going to top it back up, pre-treated barrel water, and then we're just going to let it go. Plug everything back in, let it go. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want to push her range into my range, my tank's range. And if I keep doing 90% water changes, well, she'll get comfortable at a range I don't want my tank in, or that my tank doesn't want to be in. So this way I'm going to slowly, turn the dial up, her biological dial up when it comes to resisting the acidity of the water. So I'm going to take it down to halfway. I'm going to put some barrel water in. That's going to make sure I don't get down into 6.4. But it's not going to, keep me close to 7 either. So they like the water when it's closer to 7. And after about 24 hours, it starts to creep down into the 6s, into the mid 6s. So, yeah, doing a 40% water change to keep it better than it is right now, but, turning the dial up a little bit, forcing her into the direction I want her without burning her gills. It's a precarious game, and I've got to do this for at least a week, and we're 3 days in probably now. So, but this is a reason why a lot of people lose a discus they just bought within the last week, and it looks like disease. And you can definitely give them meds to help them sort of heal faster from the damage that occurs, and the meds will sort of show you that you're making progress, right? But there's no meds involved here with this particular bluefish, just like there was no meds involved with this this white one. And we'll just get them past it because it's physical damage. To them it feels like a sore throat, but it's happened because there's more acid in the air than they're used to breathing. Kind of like us if we got thrown into a forest fire or into an area near a forest fire and we had to breathe, a little bit of smoky air for several days, you'd start to get a raw throat. It's kind of like that. That's what they're dealing with. Problem is, if I let it get too bad, they'll suffocate, right? Got too smoky out, so would you. You damage enough of the capillaries and things, so in your lungs, you wouldn't be able to take in oxygen, and you'd die. So this is kind of how they die from this. It's very important to know your pH when you're buying new discus, and then it's very important to know the pH of the place you're getting it from. And if it's wild like what I'm dealing with and they're older fish, they're at risk because they probably existed in that high environment for a long time and they're very adapted to the higher environment. The young fish didn't care, adapted right away because he probably didn't spend much time in that. He probably wasn't there very long at all. He's only about 3 months old, and so he didn't spend his whole life growing up in that high pH, and he's much more adaptable because of that. So there's, buying young fish can be risky, but at the same time, in this case, the younger fish was able to adapt to the pH swing easier than the older fish who had lived his whole life at a higher pH, harder water. So, but yeah, it's something to keep in mind when you're buying new fish. Definitely pay attention to the pH, and you start seeing them holding gills and stuff. That means your water changing like at least once a day, maybe even twice a day, depending on the swing you're dealing with, to ensure they can get used to your system. Anyway, I gotta stop this pump now and start filling. Okay, so here we go. The fill has begun, and I haven't mentioned this for a while, but a lot of the dry food, I buy a lot of other foods too, but a lot of the dry food I feed here has been provided by Northfin. They've been brand of the year several years in a row. Check them out. It's really good food, high quality, all natural ingredients. My fish do wonderful on it. Look at the color coming in on the red guy. Anyway, we're back to the fill. We're just gonna, I've reprimed the water, and we're just gonna give them a 40% water change. Everybody's comfortable and happy. Temperatures are matched. This will keep my pH higher and keep the new fish in their comfortable range. And like I said, after a few days of just being here, their bodies are just going to adapt. This is going to stop happening. Their gills will become more resilient. And that'll be the end of the problem. We'll be back to a perfectly running, healthy tank. Again, I've said this in my last video or one of my previous ones. If this was a year ago, I would have thought I had brought home a disease and all the rest of it. But the quality of the fish keeper shows me that, this isn't a disease. You know what I mean? Like, if I had brought these home from a pet shop, though, I'd be clueless, right? I definitely probably would have leaned a little more towards medication, to be honest. But these fish were owned their whole life by one guy. The guy is like, he was doing all the right stuff, the right traditional stuff. And I think he was just sick of spending money on meds, to be honest, because he would have been spending a lot of money on meds. It's just the way it goes. That's the way it's been done. That's just the way it's been done. If you have discus, you got a bunch of meds on hand. It costs a lot of money on meds, and you just swallow that. But because the situation has changed here in Canada, and getting meds is a difficult endeavor, we have to develop ways to avoid using them at all costs because we don't have much on hand, and it's getting harder and harder to acquire them as well. That's in my city, at least. That's a lot of people are giving up fish keeping because of it. But I'm just trying to develop ways to not need meds, and I'm doing it with discus. So if I can pull it off with these fish, it can be done. And the only reason I'm doing it is because I'm being forced to do it. It's not like I'm trying to tell people to do things my way. I'm just doing things another way and showing everyone. I think there's a big difference. And there could be some benefit to this because we all don't want to spend hundreds of dollars a year on meds. We don't want to do that. No one wants to do that. Now, if we can bring that down to maybe, 45 or 50 bucks a year on meds for the occasional, mishap, that's more acceptable. At least it is for me. But I'm cheap. And I have an availability issue. We're filling up right quick. I think I can re-engage the heaters. Let's do that now. I just have to hit the button down there. And power back up kicks in. And we get our temperature here. And we're still in range, as you can see. This is how it's done. Let's check out her function as the water gets better. Water wasn't bad anyway, but it's getting pH better right now in her world. No one else cares. No one else in the tank cares because they're all adapted. I'll know by tonight. Her functioning gill right now is very, like, it's not wide open. It's very, she's not holding it way open. The other one's going to start moving after this water change, probably about an hour. And then once she's past, it's kind of like a cold. Once she gets past it, she'll be past it. Kind of like having the sniffles or a sore throat. That's what's going on. We're going to get her past it. And this is how you do it. And then she'll be good. She'll be good to go. Just like all the rest of them are. And I wouldn't have been able to really solve this problem as easily as I am in my 20-gallon tanks. She would have suffered more over there than she is in here. There we are, all buttoned up. I just saw some right gill movement on her. She just moved it. So That's it. Everybody will be fine. We got this licked. I'm more confident with each day, and so is she. She's moving around with more confidence with each day. Her mood improves because she's feeling better. That's basically what's happening. Just watch her behavior a little bit here as the water all mixes. The temperature's fine, so from a temperature perspective, nothing's happened in the tank. She seems to be fairly perked up. The two blue ones are hanging out more and more, so they're probably going to pair. We'll see more activity when she feels better. So we'll see. We'll see. I'm hoping by tonight we'll see both gills moving almost perfectly, and by tomorrow morning she should be healed up, and just used to her new environment by then, and I won't have to. Then I can start easing off on my water changes a little bit. And as I do that, she'll ease into my routine. And that is how we do things up here at Discus North. Bet some of you thought I had a disease. I bet a few of you were watching going, "You should have quarantined. You should have quarantined." Huh? More than one way to skin a cat.